First of all, Executive Director Ang Wiseng, my fellow ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here today. And first of all, really allow me to congratulate SSIA for this amazing event and especially for such a great anniversary, which really shows how important this sector is and how much it has grown. I think the importance of semiconductors in today's world cannot be overstated. They are the building blocks of our digital and technological age, driving innovation, improving efficiency, and enhancing our quality of life. Past years, the shortage raised awareness globally to the vulnerability of the long supply chains and the vulnerability of the global electronics industry. With more than 60% of global semiconductor industry based in Asia and most of the rest in America, semiconductor-dependent industries in Europe remain exposed to disruption by the difficulties of the supply chain. The semiconductor market, I don't need to tell you, is greatly influenced by its end markets, which are mainly automotive, consumer electrics, telecommunication, and industrial equipment. And especially in these sectors, Hungary is very strong and very quickly growing. So let me tell you today a bit more about my country and what we have in this field. So you see that Hungary is in the middle of Europe. We tend to see that it's not only a Central European country, but we are the westernmost Eastern country and the easternmost Western country. And why we are doing this bridging function, you will see during my presentation today. Hungary is currently one of the fastest growing economies in the Central Eastern European region, while the total employment rate is among the EU's highest. Hungary attracts investors globally and stands high on the FDI rankings. This is a result of the investor-friendly environment, low tax rates, and incentives, which are very, very important, as were mentioned before. Foreign investment volume hit the record of 6.5 billion euros last year, which is one of the highest FDI reached in the whole of the EU. Due to those investments and government policies, Hungary became Europe's research hub, especially for the automotive and electronic industry, which are both crucially linked to semiconductors. You see that we are a small nation. We only have a population less than 10 million, but we are very, very innovative, member of the EU, member of the Schengen zone, so you really get a country which is very, very centrally located. Here you see also that logistically wise, you cannot have a more strategic location when thinking about Europe. Hungary is very, very well connected, and it's very, very easy to make business, and you have the connections with airports, railways, and an amazing highway connection. Also, when it comes to the logistic line, you will see, and it was mentioned, how important industrial parks and technology parks are. You see how well the country is linked all over, and in most of the points which you see on the map, you will find industrial zones and technology parks where you connect with players in your field. Also, Hungary is very dedicated to the climate goals. We plan to become carbon neutral by 2050, which is very, very important for us. Also, for this, 90% of Hungarian electricity production will be also carbon neutral, and we plan to have 21% renewable energy share in our gross final energy consumption. These things are also bridging the industry and very important. Also, as I mentioned, we are one of the fastest growing economies in the EU. You see this very, very high, very deep V shape or high, depending on where you see it, how much our GDP growth has bounced up. And you see that the estimates are very high. What I want to draw your attention to also is the very, very favorable incentives which are there, which is basically the main important thing, which is that still our corporate income tax rate is the lowest. It's only one digit, 9%. Which is very, very favorable when you're thinking of investment or just to do business in Hungary. Also, the tax burden on labor is very, very low. Employers only need to pay 13% of employer-related tax, which is, I think, also a great factor. When it comes to investment trends, I think we can say that Hungary is a very, very open economy, very much welcoming to investment. And already, as I mentioned, and our numbers are great. If you look at the structure of the economy, Hungary is one of the ninth highest economic complexity ranking in the world. Our industry it's mainly 30% industry, 67% services, and only 3% is agricultural. We have really a lot of investors coming in, most of it, and most important when you think of especially the key sectors in manufacturing, it's like over 16% is the automotive ecosystem. We are very, very strong in that, and I think that has been already developing over the past 10 years. When we think of it, what's also linked to that, especially today when we think about mobility, is e-mobility. Everyone is thinking about that, but what is needed for e-mobility is EV and battery. And in this sector, Hungary had developed a lot, and we became basically a superpower for the battery industry. And as I mentioned before, we are there bridging Europe and Asia. And if you look at the investments, who were reinvesting and who were the newcomers last year, among the newcomers, you basically only see Asian companies. And you also see a lot of the big Chinese companies like CATL there, which are definitely in the battery industry. So these are the newcomers which trust Hungary, which are building their large factories, large manufacturing possibilities, and they will definitely drive a change in an innovative industry, definitely also closely linked to semicon. When we think about what was mentioned, how important for investment and also for a secure climate and to grow education is, Hungary, we understood the need how education needs to be linked to industry, needs to be linked to innovation. So that's why our educational system is basically built together with the investment, with the industry, with the players together. You see that we are very, very high in science performance. If you think of it, I'm not sure you're aware, but the ballpoint pen, the computing system, vitamin C, this was all developed and figured out by Hungarians. Also, the Rubik's Cube, the one which you love to play with, it's invented by a Hungarian. So we have been always very strong in science, and we are still very much there today. And you see on this chart how much we are, especially in the field of studies, and we are very much pushing into the scientific direction that we have a lot of high-standing universities there. You see that dual education, which I was mentioning before, how this works is also very important, and especially when it comes to research and development. So I mentioned we are working together with companies, and those companies which you see here listed are working with universities together. So we encourage our industry to work with the university together and do research and development jointly in order that we have it together based on the industry's needs. Two great examples for this is Mercedes and Bosch. Mercedes is working on higher education together with the Neumann University in Hungary, and they developed a curriculum together with the university where they are building developers in the university, and then they send them to Mercedes for their practical year. So basically, they adapt together and they educate the people, the students, for the new industry. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Bosch has its innovation campus in Hungary. This is the Bosch Group's largest automotive development R&D center in the world. It's the second largest outside of Germany in terms of altogether in innovation. So that's what showcases you how much innovative Hungary are and how much big multinationals also tap on these resources. So let me get into some sectoral insights on the deeper end to show you what we can offer, especially in those sectors linked to semicon. One is definitely the electronics industry in Hungary, which is very, very diversified. I'm not sure if you are aware, but 5 out of the 8 biggest EMS manufacturers can be found in Hungary. And again, we brought you there a lot of labels of companies which I'm sure are much more familiar to you than some of them. I have to confess, I don't know either. But of course, I know the big names, and they are definitely there. And you see how much they are taking in of the global production and how much is also going for exports, which again shows how open economy Hungary is and that we are really not just for the Hungarian market, but 92.8% is actually the export ratio of the whole industry. So that's also a point for our hub location. Also, we have Singaporean investors already in the sector in Hungary as well. Takral Group and Pach are already both producing and manufacturing in Hungary for long, long years. When we come to the other very important sector, it's the automotive. More than 700 auto and component manufacturers are present in Hungary. And outside of Germany, we are the only country in the world which hosts the production units of all the three big major German car manufacturers, Audi, Mercedes, and BMW. Beside of that, we also have right now NIO, which recently announced, Suzuki and Opel also present. So the automotive is there. And not only is it there, but they do most of their research there. I'm not sure, again, it's a fun fact because it's a lot of not well known. You see there's the logo of Zalazone, which is a special test circuit where you can try out self-driving cars. Right now, Mercedes' biggest research facility in testing self-driving cars is in Hungary, not in Germany, in Hungary. And it's due to this test circuit which drives it. And just recently in a study, it was proven that besides Singapore, Hungary is one of the hubs where self-driving cars and AI-based e-mobility is tested in the world. So this is a big, big, big plus, and very much it shows how much the industry is evolving in that sense in Hungary right now. As mentioned, we are putting great emphasis on smart and sustainable mobility. And we try to think ahead of the future, because you also have to take into consideration that like 30 years ago, Hungary was still coming out of socialism. So we needed a lot of catching up to do. And for us, we needed to leapfrog a lot of the developments which some countries were favorable enough that they didn't need it to do. So we try to think when it comes to investment, when it comes to cooperation, we think very much strategically. So we see that we are strong in automotive. We always attracted these manufacturers, but we don't just want to become a manufacturing hub. We want to drive innovation. And what's needed right now is the linkage with EV and e-mobility. So that's why right now we are bringing in the battery industry into Hungary. So you see here that we are the country, we aim to have 300 gigawatt-hour manufacturing capacity in only 7 years. And this is definitely reachable. You see our partners there, and of course most of them are from Asia because this sector is very much linked to Asia. And of course, again, what you see here is we strongly link it with education and with innovation. For us, it's not just enough to bring in the investors to do the manufacturing there, but to do research and development. And right now, we have implemented a flexible curriculum for vocational education, allowing to incorporate business-specific content in one academic year, and especially battery-related studies and curriculums. Let me explain to you how this works. So if you're coming to Hungary as an investor and you want to put up manufacturing, and if you're interested in research and development, we would help you to connect you to a university or a research institute with whom you can cooperate. Those institutes and also the universities are mainly open for industry-related insights. Because right now, no matter how well knowledgeable you are, most probably you are not always aware as a teacher of the newest trends, of the newest developments, how it needs to be done, because the industry is so quickly growing and so quickly changing. So these institutions would work together with these companies to develop a special curriculum according to the company's needs, and then the students could go and do their practical tasks or their practical year or whatever at the companies, and then a company can cherry pick immediately, and you have specially trained workforce just for your purposes. And this is what all the big multinationals, but also smaller companies take very, very favorable of, and that's what has attracted also a lot of investment in the past couple of years. I need to speed up a bit because I only have 5 more minutes, but let me show you. So here you see how much the battery industry has expanded in Hungary, and you see on the map that beside of Hungary, it's only Germany which has 300 gigawatt hours battery producing capacity, and it's only these 2 countries which have the major players there in line. In the last year, especially in Hungary, the Chinese battery and component manufacturers have announced more than 10 billion euros worth of investment into Hungarian factories. In August last year, the world's leading battery producer, CATL, announced a 7.3 billion euro investment to build a battery plant in East Hungary. And EVE Energy, Huayou Cobalt, BYD, and Ningbo Zhengzhou Technologies have all announced new factory projects just over the last month. In June this year, Hungary was the guest of honor at the World Power Battery Conference in Jibin, China, so this shows how important we are in this sector. But let me tell you a bit more about the semicons. Of course, semiconductors are at the center of a strong geostrategic interest and of the global technological race. For this reason, the EU adopted the European Chip Act last year, which strengthens Europeans' competitiveness and resilience in the strategic sector. The first pillar of the Act, the Chips for Europe initiative, will reinforce Europe's technological leadership by facilitating the transfer of knowledge from the lab to the fabrication, bridging the gap between research and innovation and industrial activities, and by promoting the industrialization of innovation technologies by European businesses. The second pillar of the European Chips Act will create a framework to ensure security of supply by attracting investments and enhancing production capacities in semiconductor manufacturing. To this end, it set out a framework for integrated production facilities and open EU foundries that are first of a kind in the Union and contribute to the security of supply and to a resilient ecosystem in the Union's interest. In its third pillar, the European Chip Act will also establish a coordination mechanism between the Member States and the Commission for strengthening collaboration with and across Member States, monitoring the supply of semiconductors, estimating demand, anticipating shortages, and if necessary, triggering the activation of a crisis stage. To address such situations, the European Chip Act establishes a dedicated toolbox of measures that can be undertaken. It is clear that Europe has strength in system design for key industrial sectors, such as manufacturing and automotive. The key differentiator in future will be in providing trusted hardware and software platforms that can support the non-functional requirements on the application domains, and this is an area where Europe, and especially Hungary, is a leader. The Hungarian government is inciting companies of global semiconductor industry to set up manufacturing capacities in Hungary to supply their European clients from inside the EU. With the growing number of high-tech and chip-hungry manufacturers in Hungary and Central Europe, from, as you've seen, from electric road vehicles to trains and other non-mobility electronic products, the local and regional demand is already there. And it will only grow. Right now, in order to satisfy these needs, we definitely need more semicons, and especially in Hungary. As it was mentioned, the three main factors which a government can give is education, incentives, and technology parks. What we do there is that in this July, the Hungarian government launched a $3 million project to enhance chip production R&D activities as part of our Industry 4.0 strategy. Also, the Hungarian government has raised the intensity of its financial contribution for setting up new industrial R&D facilities from previous 25% intensity to as high as 50%. Just if you are investing into R&D. Also, when it comes to education, I've shown already to you how our system works, but the semiconductor sector is also characterized by a very intense R&D activity, and there we have first-class companies which are reinvesting more than 15% of their revenues into research in next-generation technologies. Hungary is home to world-leading research and technology organization and many excellent universities and research institutes spread across the country, which are pioneering the techniques behind production of some of the world's most advanced chips. Moreover, Hungary is also well-positioned in terms of materials and equipment needed to run large chip manufacturing plants, with many companies playing an essential role along the supply chain and great industrial and technological parts. So you see, we are very happy for François's presentation at the beginning, because I can showcase you that what we can do from the government perspective, we do, and we show that the industry is growing, and we would definitely welcome more and more semiconductors to look up Hungary, to look for the presentation. And to try and to showcase a bit what we can really give, we brought to you a video, which I'm not sure I will be playing because my time is already up. So sorry for that, but Infineon is one of our biggest investors, and they were just the ones which were right now enlarging their facility. They have been here in Hungary already for over 3 years, and I'm sure you will be later on also hearing from them. They have been already there for 3 years, and they enlarged their company just last year to fulfill and satisfy the demand which is there. To conclude my presentation, we have a very, very strong industry which is eager and hunger for semicons. We have all what we can assure from the government perspective, and we also have a one-stop management solution to that, because the presentation which you see is from our Hungarian investment promotion agency, which is a one-stop shop if it comes to it when you want to invest in Hungary. Also, I want to draw your attention to my colleague Peter over there at the table, who is here today, and also he and myself, we are very happy to answer any kind of questions which you have. I believe that Hungary and Singapore are growing closer and stronger together and we can offer a very attractive business environment for Singaporean companies to set up operation in Hungary, or just to look for cooperation possibilities in this sector. So I encourage you all to seek us out, look for potential, and I'm very happy to speak with you and answer to any questions which arise. Thank you so much.